Everyone, I welcome you all to this video. And in this video, we will discuss about other constraint, that is default constraint. So I will open the new query window for that purpose. So I will simply click here on new query and it will open a new query window for us. And the database that we are going to use is named constraints, and we are going to discuss about default constraint. So default constraint. So this constraint is used to provide default values. Default values to columns. So let's say there's a table, and in that table you want to insert a record, and you do not mention the value for a particular column, but for that column, let's say default value is mentioned. So null will not be inserted there, but default value will be inserted. So let's take an example to understand that. So again, when we'll discuss about the default constraint, we have two cases. In the very first case, we do not have the table already existing. So we will say the table does not exist. So we will basically be creating the table in case 1. And then we have case 2, where the table already exists. So let's create the table in the first case. So we will create a table, and for that we will write create table and then the name of the table. So let's say the name of the table is test_default, bracket open, press enter, bracket close, and inside the brackets, let's write the names of the columns. So let's say we have very first column as EID, and this is having data type integer, and let's say there is a default constraint that is defined on this column, and the constraint is that the default value has to be, let's say, 5. So if you will be inserting a record in this table and you do not, and let's say you don't supply any value for EID column, then in that case, the default value will be assigned and it will be equal to 5. So we will take an example to understand that. Comma, let's say there is one more column which is available in this table. And let's say the next column is your first name column. And first name column, let's say the data type is varchar 256. And let's say the default value defined for first name is, default constraint is defined on this column as well. And the default value is defined as, let's say, Rohit. So if the first name will not be supplied, so the default value will be equal to Rohit. Let's say there is last name column as well. For last name column, no such default constraint is defined. So that's fine, no problem. Comma. Then we have age column as well. And for age column, the data type is tiny int. And let's say no default constraint is defined on this column as well. All right, so these are the columns that we have, right? And for some of them, we have default values defined, while for the others, we do not have any default value defined. So I will simply select the statement, the SQL code written from line 6 to line 12, and will then execute it. So commands completed successfully and test default table was created. I will now run the simple select statement to see the data that we have in this table. So we can write select star from, test default. So as of now, when we will execute the statement, since we are having no data available in this table, so there are no records, right? You can see. But again, we have these 4 columns. We have created the structure. That's why these columns appear here. Now let's say we want to insert the values. So Control R, and let's say we will write insert into test default values. So we want to insert the values, but we will, first of all, let's try to insert the values for all the columns. So let's say for EID, we want to supply 1. Then for first name, we want to write, let's say, Nitin. Then for last name, we want to provide, let's say, Jen. And then we have the age. So let's keep the age as 23. If we will now execute the insert statement written in line 16, so you will see one record impacted. And if we will now run the select statement on this table, that is select star from test default, so you can see that this one record is available because we inserted this record into the table. Now let's try to insert one more record such that I will write insert into, and this time we want to insert the values, let's say only for 2 columns. So we do not want to insert the value in EID column and first name column. So we will be inserting values in the last name column and age column. So that's why we have written insert into test default, last name comma age, values, bracket open, bracket close. Let's say in the last name, we want to write Singh. And let's say for the age, we want to keep the value as 34. If we will now execute the insert statement written in line number 18, you will see that one record was impacted and the record was inserted. And now let's execute the simple select statement on test default table, that is select star from test default. So you can see that for record number 2, we didn't insert any value in the EID column. We didn't insert any value in the first name column as well. But because while we created this table, we defined the default value for EID column as 5 and we defined the default value for first name column as Rohit. That's why in record number 2, despite of our not providing the value for these 2 columns, that is EID and first name, 5 and Rohit were inserted in EID column and first name column respectively. So that's how the default constraint can be used in this way. Now Control R. Now let's consider a case where we already have a table that exists. We do have a table, and let's say we want to basically create a default constraint on, let's say, age column. So as of now, you can see that there is no such default constraint created on age column. If you'll have a look at line number 11, but now we want to add a constraint on age column. So before that, let's try to insert a record and let's try to insert null values into age column. Like if we will simply not provide the value, then it will take null value, right? So let's take an example to understand that first. So we will write insert into test default, bracket open, bracket close. Let's say we want to provide the values only for last name column. And we will say values inside the bracket. Let's write, maybe we can consider Grover. If we will now insert the statement written in line 20, now one row impacted, we have inserted record such that the value is inserted only in last name column. If we will now run the simple select statement on this test default table, so you can see that in the third record, since for EID default was defined, so 5 is inserted in EID column. For first name, Rohit was defined as the default value, so Rohit is there in the first name column. Last name we inserted and we didn't insert the age. So that's why in age column, you can see that the value is null. Fine. So since default constraint is not defined on age column as of now, that's why null was inserted. Now null exists there. Now let's say we want to define the constraint on age column and let's see how we can do that. So I will simply write alter table and then let's write the name of this table. So we have test underscore default. So alter table, table name, and then you can write add default. And then you have to provide the default value. So the default value, let's say we want to keep it as 25. And then you need to write the name of the column for which you have provided this default value. So you can write for age. So alter table test default, add default 25 for age. So let's select this statement, which is written in line 24, 25, and let's execute it. So commands completed successfully. And now if we will try to insert a record into this table, let's say insert into test default. And let's say we want to insert the value only for last name column. So last name, values, And let's say we want to provide the last name as, you can take anything, might be Jan only. And if I will now select the statement written in line 27, and if I'll execute this, so you can see that one record was impacted. And if we will now run the simple select statement to see the record that we have inserted just now, so we can write select star from test default, and let's execute this statement written in line 29. So you can see that in the fourth record, 25 age, in the age column, the value inserted is 25. While we didn't specify it, we didn't mention it, but because the default constraint was added to this table in the already existing table, where initially there was no default constraint for age column, but now there is a default constraint for age column. So despite of our not inserting the value for age column, it took this value, which is the default value. So I hope this video was helpful, and we have discussed about the default constraint. We will meet in the next session. We will discuss about primary key and foreign key constraints. So till then, thank you. Bye-bye.